China's civil society is also part of a global civil society, and therefore also our civil society.
There will be a new law on foreign NGOs in China. On the one hand, the law actually gives an opportunity now, you're saying, to formally register for activities in China. But you also mentioned that the registration happens with the Public Security Bureau. Are you welcoming the role of the public security in the civil society space, or are you worried about it?
It's a good thing for public security to be interacting and involved in managing NGOs in China. Public security will actually have to deal with foreign NGOs not just as, targets of suspicion, but as clients, which, can lead to, I think, greater trust between public security and NGOs, or if not trust, at least greater understanding.
Can you help us set this new law into a political context and talk a little bit about the trajectory of civil society in China, but also its collaboration with global civil society, of which it is a part?
This law is a kind of climax of a development we can witness for like 25 years already. It's a crucial shift for collaboration and internationalization of the Chinese NGOs. It's also, on the other hand, a push of indigenization. This process was kind of back and forth the whole time. It was trying to find Chinese definition of what kind of civil society do we want, what kind of NGOs do we want. We want to have capacity building, we want to learn from Western NGOs, but we don't want certain NGOs. Therefore, the new law and all these other laws which came before, the charity law, the national security law, and so on, they are all going in one direction. It's this paternalistic view of the party has to lead the people. Therefore, this wide space of cooperation is shrinking down now, and international cooperation is really in danger.
I think it's interesting to look at the dialogue around civil society. Civil society was a term that for many, many years you could use. You would see this in the commercial media, the newspapers. They would use terms like social construction, civil society, the citizen. But you definitely see a change around 2011. It disappeared, the term civil society. Then now in Xi Jinping, we see, again, it's entirely disappearing. And I think we have to talk about 2013 Document 9 that came out, which prohibits discussion of things like constitutionalism, and civil society is one of those terms.
Some would argue there is a neo-totalitarian turn under Xi Jinping, an attempt by the party to control spaces that were relatively free. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. I think prior to Xi Jinping, NGOs were allowed to play around at the margins, do their work in communities, often in cooperation with local governments who saw their work as useful and collaborated with them. Now we've entered a different phase where NGOs will also have a different relationship with the party, with the government, but also a different relationship with the society. I mean, we haven't talked as much about the charity law. I mean, public fundraising means suddenly that your relationship with society must change. That's what some of these new regulations and laws will do, is it will require NGOs to be more transparent with society, to engage with society more. Certainly there's the gloomy side, and I don't want to downplay that, but I think we have to see some of the opportunities that come about as a result of these new laws and regulations. I don't like the term shrinking space. What the Chinese are trying to do, the Chinese government is trying to do, is create a more regulated space. It's regulation, of course, with Chinese characteristics. It's not the kind of regulation that maybe we think of in the US or in Europe.
I think we have to see both. It's good that a certain space is getting regulated, yes. But on the other hand, there are many other parts which will die out immediately now because of the new law, because many are very afraid to take any foreign money anymore. It's a kind of picking and choosing the good ones and throw out the bad ones. And this is a process we are just witnessing now.
accepting money from abroad can actually be very sensitive and maybe dangerous. Is it better to stop those activities, or is it better to try and continue to push?
I think push is the simple answer. Find a way. But the fear is such a palpable thing. The uncertainty, really. What can you do? What can you not? Programs that might be very doable, people will just not attempt them because the risk is too high and you're devoting resources. It's a very risky proposition, but I hope we try.
The only way is continuing exchange, continuing collaboration.